is so very good to see you here this morning. My name is Lisa Montgomery, and I'm the Director for Inclusion, Diversity, and Employer Engagement here at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And on behalf of the President, the Provost, we want to thank you for coming out today and spending your Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration with our campus community and with the community of Bronzeville. We are very grateful to you for joining us in celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The Illinois Institute of Technology seeks to continually collaborate with the community and to help commemorate the message of Dr. King's and the civil rights movement by engaging in partnerships, research, discoveries, and activities that will aid in bridging divides and resolving differences. The program today will focus on values, mentoring, and explore new ways to evolve the community into a better Bronzeville. As we individually contemplate the work that remains to be done, we welcome the community to work with you, the opportunity to work with you to create a more just and inclusive society. Illinois Tech, a PhD granting university, is located in the city of Chicago and has been a proud member of the Bronzeville community for the past 127 years. We appreciate the opportunity to serve in the call to action and achievement with our great neighbors in support of the civil rights movement, and may we never forget the true sacrificial cost for this celebration. This program today is hosted by the Office of Access, Success, and Diversity and Campus Life here at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And at this time, I would like to bring up the Vice President, the Vice Provost for that office and also Career Services, Gerald Doyle, who's going to give the opening remarks this morning. But this is also a person that is very, very passionate about this work, has pushed the extra mile for us to have this celebration here today. And for that, myself and others are very grateful to have him. So with that, I'd like to welcome to the stage our Vice Provost, Gerald Doyle.
Good morning, everyone. One of the lessons that I have learned from Lisa is that small conversations, small gatherings begin to move communities and worlds, both in terms of action, in terms of building community, in terms of thinking long-term about how we come together as a people. The final thing is and Lisa mentioned this, is Illinois Tech at times over the last 127 years has been a great neighbor to Bronzeville and Chicago and Illinois. And at other times, we've not been the best neighbor. And I want, on behalf of sort of the president and the provost and the students and the alumni, is to say that we want to challenge ourselves to be much, much better neighbors. If anyone has lived in Chicago for more than 20 years, you understand that history and the challenge that IIT has to reclaim, and we want to be great at that. We cannot be a world leader as an institution unless we are first and foremost great in our own city and great in our own community of Bronzeville. And that means having a difficult conversations with ourselves at times to own our history. And that takes some deep listening, and we want to do that. So on behalf of my colleagues, very grateful to Lisa's work and the work of everyone who's come together. But let's see this as a beginning and challenge ourselves and challenge Illinois Tech to do more and to do more together. Thank you very much and welcome.
Hopefully we can inspire our friends and family to come and spend the day with us. and to really start to help with understanding our neighbors and seeing how we can work together to really progress civil rights and to really turn this thing around, folks, and so that we can have a better world for everybody. So again, thank you. And with that, I invite up Anna Lawrence.
So yeah, like I said, I'm Anna Lawrence. I'm an architecture major. I go to Illinois Tech. I'm a first year, and I'm here to introduce some global leaders. And the Illinois Tech Global Leader Program is a free 2-year academic enrichment program for the Chicago area high school students. And this program inspires high-achieving youth from across Chicago to lead and serve through STEM and supports their paths to higher education. The Global Leader Program aims to be a catalyst for Chicago's talented youth as they develop their interests in STEM fields. And we're a selective program. We admit about 100 students for their junior senior year. They start sophomore year. And yeah, I would like to introduce Alexis James, a junior at Jones College, and Amari Martin, a junior at Urban Prep. Awesome.
I want you to think with me this morning from the subject, Rediscovering Lost Values. There is something wrong with our world, something fundamentally and basically wrong. I don't think we have to look too far to see that. I'm sure that most of you would agree with me in making that assertion. And when we stop to analyze the cause of our world's ills, many things come to mind. We begin to wonder if it is due to the fact that we don't know enough. But it can't be that, because in terms of accumulated knowledge, we know more today than men have known in any period in human history. We have the facts at our disposal. We know more about mathematics, about science, about social science, and philosophy than we've ever known in any period of the world's history. So it can't be because we don't know enough. And then we wonder if it is due to the fact that our scientific genius lags behind. That is, if we have not made enough progress scientifically. Well then, man through his scientific genius has been able to dwarf distance and place time in chains so that today it is possible to eat breakfast in New York City, and supper in London, England. Back in about 1753, it took a letter 3 days to go from New York City to Washington. And today, you can go from here to China in less time than that. It can be because man is stagnant in his scientific progress. Man's scientific genius has been amazing. I think we have to look much deeper than that if we are to find the real cause of man's problems and the real cause of the world's ills today. If we are really to find it, I think we'll have to look in the hearts of souls of men. The trouble isn't so much that we don't have enough, that we don't know enough, but it's as if we are good enough. The trouble isn't so much that our scientific genius lags behind, but our moral genius lags behind. The great problem facing modern man is that the means by which we live outdistance the spiritual ends for which we live. So we find ourselves caught in messed up world. The problem is with man himself and man's soul. We haven't learned how to just be honest and kind and true and loving. And that is the basis of our problem. The real problem is that through our scientific genius, we've made the world a neighborhood. But through our moral and spiritual genius, we fail to make it a brotherhood. And the great danger faces us today is not so much of the atomic bomb that was created by physical science. Not so much that atomic bomb that you can put in an airplane and drop it on the heads of hundreds and thousands of people, as dangerous as that is. But the real danger confronting civilization today is that the atomic bomb, which lies in the hearts and souls of men, capable of exploding into the vilest of hate and into the most damaging selflessness. That's the atomic bomb that we've got to fear today. Problem is with men. Within the hearts and souls of men, this is the real basis of our problem. My friends, all that I'm trying to say is that if we go forward today, we've got to go back and rediscover some mighty precious values that we left behind. That's the only way that's the only way we'll be able to make our world a better world, and to make of this world what God wants us to be, and the real purpose and meaning of it. The only way we can do it is to go back and rediscover some mighty precious values that we've left behind. Our situation in the world today reminds me of a very popular situation that took place in the life of Jesus. It was read in the scripture for the morning, found over in the 2nd chapter of Luke's Gospel. When Jesus was about 12 years old, there was a custom of the annual Passover feast. Jesus' parents took him up to Jerusalem, and they were there a few days, and then after being there, they decided to go back home to Nazareth. And they started out, and I guess, as it was in the tradition in those days, the father probably traveled in front, and then the mother and the children behind. You see, they didn't have the modern conveniences that we have today. They didn't have the automobiles and subways and the buses. They walked and traveled on donkeys and camels and what have you. So they traveled very slow, but it was usually the tradition for father to lead the way. And they left Jerusalem, going back to Nazareth. And I imagine that they walked a little while and didn't look back to see if everybody else was there. But then, the scripture says, they went about a day's journey and they stopped. I imagine to check up to see if everything was all right, and they discovered that something mighty precious was missing. They discovered that Jesus wasn't with them. Jesus wasn't in the midst. And so they paused and looked, and they didn't see him around. And they went on and started looking amongst the kinsfolk. And they went on back to Jerusalem and found him there, in the temple with the doctors of the law. Now, the real thing is that to be seen here is this, that the parents of Jesus realized they had left, and that they had lost mighty precious value. They had sense enough to know that before they could go forward to Nazareth, they had to go backward to Jerusalem and rediscover this value. Sometimes, it's necessary to go back in order to go forward. That's an analogy of life. I remember the other day I was driving out to New York City into Boston, and I stopped off in Bridgeport, Connecticut to visit some friends. And I went out of New York City, New York, on a highway that was known as the Merritt Parkway. It leads into Boston, a very fine parkway. After being in Bridgeport for 2 or 3 hours, I decided to go on to Boston, and I wanted to get back on the Merritt Parkway. I started out and rode. I kept riding, and I looked up and saw a sign saying 2 miles to Littletown that wasn't supposed to pass through. So I thought I was on the wrong road and stopped to ask a gentleman which way would get me to Merritt Parkway. And he said, the Merritt Parkway is about 12 or 15 miles back the other way. In other words, before I could go back forward to Boston, I had to go back 12 or 15 miles to get to the Merritt Parkway. May it not be a modern man has gotten on the wrong parkway? And if he is to go forward to the city of salvation, he's got to go back on the right parkway. And so that was the thing that Jesus' parents realized, that they had to go back and find his mighty precious value that they left behind in order to go forward. And so they went back to Jerusalem and discovered Jesus, rediscovered him so to speak, in order to go forward to Nazareth. Now, that's what we've got to do in our world today. We've left a lot of precious values behind. We've lost a lot of precious values. And if we are to go forward, if we are to make this a better world in which we live, we've got to go back. We've got to rediscover these precious values that we've left behind. I want to deal with 1 or 2 of these mighty precious values that we've left behind. That if we're going to go forward and to make this a better world, we must rediscover. The first is this. The first principle of value that we need to rediscover is this, that all reality hinges on moral foundations. In other words, that's this, a moral universe. And that there are moral laws of the universe as abiding as the physical laws. I'm not so sure if we all believe that. We never doubt that there are physical laws of the universe that we must obey, and so that we don't just jump out of airplanes or jump off high buildings for the fun of it. Because we are unconsciously known that there is a final law of gravitation, and that if you disobey it, you'll suffer the consequences. Even if we don't know it's in Newtonian formulation, we know it's intuitively. And so we just don't jump off the highest building in Detroit for the fun of it. Because we know that there is a law of gravitation which is final in the universe. If we disobey it, we'll suffer the consequences. But I'm not sure if we know that there are moral laws just as abiding as the physical law. I'm not sure if we really believe that there is a law of love in this universe, and that if you disobey it, you will suffer the consequences. I'm not so sure if we really believe that. Now, at least two things convince me that we don't believe it, that we have strayed away from the principle that this is a moral universe. The first thing that we have adopted in this modern world is a sort of realistic ethic. Now, I'm not trying to use a big word here. I'm just trying to say something very concrete. Most people can't stand up for their own convictions because the majority of people might not be doing it. See, everybody's not doing it, so it must be wrong. And since everybody is doing it, it must be right. So a sort of numerical interpretation of what's right.
But I am here to say to you this morning that some things are right and some things are wrong. Eternally so, absolutely so. It's wrong to hate. It's always been wrong and it always will be wrong. It's wrong in America, it's wrong in Germany, and it's wrong in Russia, and it's wrong in China. It was wrong in 2000 BC and is wrong in 1954 AD. It has always been wrong and it always will be wrong. It's wrong to throw our lives away in riotous living. No matter if everybody in Detroit is doing it, it's wrong. It always will be wrong, and it always has been wrong. It's wrong in every age, and it's wrong in every nation. Some things are right, and some things are wrong, no matter if everybody is doing the contrary. Some things in this universe are absolute. The God of the universe has made it so. And so, as long as we adopt this relative attitude towards right and wrong, we're revolting against the very laws of God himself. Now, that isn't the only thing that convinces me that we've strayed away from this attitude, this principle. The other thing is that we have adopted a sort of pragmatic test for right and wrong. Whatever works is right. If it works, it's all right. Nothing is wrong but that which does not work. If you don't get caught, it's right. That's the attitude, isn't it? It's all right to disobey the 10 Commandments, but just don't disobey the 11th. Thou shalt not get caught. And that's the attitude. That's the prevailing attitude in our culture. No matter what you do, just do it with a little bit of finesse. You know, assert a sort of attitude of the survival of the slickest. Not the Darwinian survival of the fittest, but the survival of the slickest. Whoever can be the slickest is the one who is right. It's all right to lie, but lie with dignity. It's all right to steal and rob and extort, but do it with a bit of finesse. It's even all right to hate. Just dress your hate up in the garments of love and make it appear that you're loving when you're actually hating. Just get by. That's the thing that's right according to this new ethic. My friends, that attitude is destroying the soul of our culture. It's destroying our nation. The thing that we need in the world today is a group of men and women who stand up for right and to be opposed to wrong, whatever it is. A group of people who come to see that some things are wrong, whether they've never caught up with. And some things are right, whether nobody sees you doing them or not. All I'm trying to say to you is that our world hinges on moral foundation. God has made it so. God has made the universe to be based on a moral law. So long as man disobeys, he is revolting against God. That's what we need in the world today, people who will stand for right and goodness. It's not enough to know the intricacies of zoology and biology, but we must know the intricacies of law. It is not enough to know that 2 and 2 makes 4, but we've got to know somehow that it's right to be honest and just with our brothers. It's not enough to know all about our physiological and mathematical disciplines, but we've got to know the simple disciplines of being honest and loving and just with all humanity. If we don't learn it, we will destroy ourselves by the misuse of our own powers. This universe hinges on moral foundations. There is nothing in this universe that justifies Carlyle in saying, "No lie can live forever." There is something in this universe that justifies William Cullen Bryant in saying, "Truth, crushed to earth, will rise again." There is something in this universe that justifies James Russell Lowell in saying, "Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne, yet that scaffold sways the future. Behind the dim unknown stands God, within the shadow keeping watch above his own." There is something in this universe that justifies the biblical writer in saying, "You shall reap what you sow." This is the law-abiding universe. This is a moral universe. It hinges on moral foundations. If we're to make of this a better world, we've got to go back and rediscover that precious value that we've left behind. And then there is a second thing, a second principle that we've got to go back and rediscover. And that is all reality has spiritual control. In other words, we've got to go back and rediscover the principle that there is a God behind the process. Well, you say, why is it that you raise that as a point in your sermon in a church? The mere fact that we are at church, we believe in God, and we don't need to go back and rediscover that. The mere fact that we're all here, and the mere fact that we sing and pray and come to church, we believe in God. Well, there's some truth in that. But we must remember that it's possible to affirm the existence of God with your lips and deny his existence with your life. The most dangerous type of atheism is not theoretical atheism, but practical atheism. That's the most dangerous type. And the world, even the church, is filled with people who pray lip service to God and not life service. And there is always a danger that we will make it to appear externally that we believe in God when internally we don't. We say with our mouths that we believe in him, but we live with our lives like he never existed. That is the ever-present danger confronting religion. That's a dangerous type of atheism. And I think, my friends, that this is the thing that has happened in America, that we have unconsciously left God behind. Now we haven't consciously done it, we have unconsciously done it. You see, we didn't grow up and say, "Now goodbye, God, we're gonna leave you now." The materialism in America has been an unconscious thing. Since the rise of the Industrial Revolution in England, and then the invention of all our gadgets and contrivances, and all the things and modern conveniences, we unconsciously left God behind. We didn't mean to do it. We just became so involved in getting our big bank accounts that we unconsciously forgot about God. We didn't mean to do it. We became so involved in getting our nice, luxurious cars, and they're very nice, but we became so involved in it that it became much more convenient to ride out to the beach on Sunday afternoon than to come to church that morning. It was an unconscious thing. We didn't mean to do it. We became so involved and fascinated by the intricacies of television that we found it a little more convenient to stay at home than to come to church. It was an unconscious thing. We didn't mean to do it. We didn't just go up and say, "Now God, we're gone." We had gone a whole day's journey, and then we came to see that we had unconsciously ushered God out of the universe. A whole day's journey, didn't mean to do it. We just became so involved in things that we forgot about God. And that is the danger confronting us, my friends, that in a nation as ours, where we stress mass production, and that's mighty important, where we have so many conveniences and luxuries, and all of that, there is a danger that we will unconsciously forget about God. I'm not saying that these things aren't important. We need them. We need cars, we need money. All that's important to live. But whenever they become substitutes for God, they become injurious. And may I say to you this morning that none of these things can ever be real substitutes for God. Automobiles and subways, televisions and radios, dollars and cents can never be substitutes for God. For long before any of these things came into existence, we needed God. And long after they have passed away, we will still need God. And I say to you this morning in conclusion that I'm not going to put my ultimate faith in things. I'm not going to put my ultimate faith in gadgets and contrivances. As a young man with most of my life ahead of me, I decided early to give my life to something eternal and absolute. Not to these little gods that are here today and gone tomorrow, but to a God who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. not in the little gods that can be with us in a few moments of prosperity, but in the God who walks with us through the valley of the shadow of death and causes to fear no evil. That's the God. Not in the God who can give us a few Cadillac cars and Buick convertibles, as nice as they are, that are in style today and out of style 3 years from now, but the God who threw up the stars to bedeck the heavens like swinging lanterns of eternity. Not in the God who can throw up a few skyscraper buildings, but the God who threw up gigantic mountains, kissing the sky as to bathe their peaks in the lofty blues. Not in the God that can give us a few televisions and radios, but the God who threw up that great cosmic light that gets up early in the morning in the eastern horizon, who paints his technicolor across the blue something that man could never make. I'm not going to put my ultimate faith in the little gods that can be destroyed in an atomic age, but the God who has been our help in ages past, and our hope for years to come, and our shelter in a time of storm, and our eternal home. That's the God that I'm putting my ultimate faith in. That's the God I call upon you to worship this morning. Go out and be assured that God is going to last forever. Storms might come and go. Our great skyscraping buildings will come and go. Our beautiful automobiles will come and go, but God will be here. Plants may wither, the flowers may fade, but the word of God shall stand forever, and nothing can ever stop him. All the P-38s in the world can never reach God. All of our atomic bombs can never reach him. The God that I am talking about this morning is the God of the universe and the God that will last throughout the ages. If we are to go forward this morning, we've got to go back and find that God. This is the God that demands and commands our ultimate allegiance. If we are to go forward, we must go back and rediscover these precious values. That all reality hinges on moral foundations, and that all reality has spiritual control. God bless you.
I am here to introduce Ms. Cassandra McGee. She is a certificated career specialist from the University of Illinois at Springfield with a Master's of Science in Sociology and a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology, both from Iowa State University. She is the author of 3 books, The Fight to Love, Revelations from God, and The 10 Commandments of Career Success, How to Have the Career You Really Desire. She is the renowned Chicago career coach and principal of Covenant Career Consulting, a premier talent management and instructional design consulting firm that provides connoisseurs services including outplacement, resume development, interview skills training, curriculum development, and editing and career coaching. Her leadership experience includes more than 15 years in program administration, career development, and governmental affairs. She has proven to be a trusted advisor and consultant to C-level and senior executives at numerous organizations regarding growth strategies, stakeholder engagement, program planning, and overall industry best practices. Her professional experience also encompasses great administration, legal advocacy, as well as college professorships at several universities, including Aurora University and DeVry University. She is the founder of Power for Living International Ministries, with her experience including radio program host, keynote speaker, board member, and praise and worship leader. So please, everyone, without further ado, can we give a warm applause and welcome to our keynote speaker, Ms. Cassandra McGee.
But it is an honor to be here today to help celebrate the legacy of an outstanding leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I also come not just to celebrate him, but to challenge each of us as leaders in our own right. To challenge us as to how to become better leaders, as to how to become greater leaders. And one of the marks of a great leader is the willingness and the ability for us to take a personal inventory, an inventory of our strengths, an inventory of our weaknesses, as well as opportunities that we have for growth and for development. So with that being said, as leaders, can we have a leader-to-leader conversation? Okay, so as leaders, can we agree that there are things that all of us need to continue to develop, and that there's areas within each of us that we can improve upon and that we can become better at? Can we all agree to that? Okay. So if you take basically that as the premise of our conversation, then let's say that if I stop growing, I will die. If I stop evolving, then I become obsolete. But as long as there is life, is there not hope? Is there not opportunity each and every moment of each and every day? It's a gift, correct? Each and every day provides 24 hours worth of moments in order for us to make decisions about whether we're going to become better or whether we are going to choose to die or whether we are going to choose to become obsolete. The simple fact that we have to continue to have conversations around some of the exact same topics that Dr. King and his colleagues had in the 50s and the 60s, it has to be reflective of the fact that there remains a systemic problem, that we've seen progress. Now, let's not discount the progress that we've seen. Let's not discount the advancements that we all basically have benefited from in one way or another. But the fact that we're still talking about racism, the fact that we're still talking about unequal wages, the fact that we're still talking about disenfranchised communities means that there is still a problem that as leaders, we need to have a dialogue, correct, about how to address these and how we can personally impact others around us in order to get things better. So let's start rediscovering lost values. And thank you, young leaders. You guys did an excellent job in presenting Dr. King's speech from 1954. So I'll start with one of his quotes. He says, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." One of the things that I loved about Dr. King was that he was not just an awesome orator. He was not just a great leader, but he was able to organize and mobilize an entire generation of people in order to be unified around a vision and a propelling belief that's really intertwined and woven into the fabric of who we are as individuals and as an American people, that all men are created equal, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a human right, and that prosperity, now I'm not just talking about for faith-based people, I'm not talking about finances, but prosperity meaning health, prosperity meaning wealth, prosperity mean education and access to it, but prosperity mean wholeness and well-being in every aspect of who we are. That prosperity belongs to us all. So his dream was not just about his individual dream. It was about a vision. It was about a passion. It was about a movement, a hope, and a prayer about unifying all of us to individually believe and then collectively come together and say that this is something that is supposed to be available to all of us. So we as a greater America, we as a greater individual, we as a greater world, we as the greater God-created beings, we're all destined for greatness. Do you believe that? That there's greatness on the inside of all of us, and there's a purpose that each of us are to fulfill. However, the dream goes unrealized, although we've experienced some work toward attaining it. However, we're closer to the reality of it, but in recent times and recent discussions, it seems as if that there's ideologies and actions that try to threaten to bring us to a darker tomorrow instead of a brighter day, in which we've seen some advancements. So the important questions that we really need to start asking ourselves is this: why have we not yet realized a truly united America? One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we as Americans really believe and live out the creed that our nation is built upon, biblical values? And do we serve God and do we serve each other well? One of Dr. King's prayers was, "Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself. Is that a prayer that each of us can hold on to and say that that becomes part of our daily focus? That it's not just about me, but it's about me being connected to a greater whole. And the stronger that I become, the stronger that we become. So, we are the change that the world seeks and needs. We are. You are. Each of us are. The power lies within us all to create a world that is filled with love, unity, peace, security, making this no longer a dream, but our status quo and our reality. The vision remains cast before us, even though some of us have seemingly lost some of those good old-fashioned values, I want to call it, that has helped us become stronger individuals and a stronger nation. Now, I might be dating myself a little bit, but there used to be a time that we realized, regardless of race, culture, creed, religion, gender, we realized that we were each other's brothers and sisters keepers. There used to be a time that if I went up the street and Miss May caught me doing something, Miss May would not only protect me but discipline me. By the time I got back to Willie and Beatrice McGee's house, Miss May had called. And I was not only in trouble with Miss May, but I was in trouble with Beatrice McGee and in trouble with Willie McGee, because now my father's quote was this: the only person that can embarrass a McGee is a McGee. When you leave out of these doors, you're not just representing yourself, but you're representing me. There used to be a time where our public service officers, our police officers, were seen as those operating in integrity and dignity, and they were trusted officials. There used to be a time when clergy was seen as those that we could look up to and respect, and I'm a member of the clergy now. So there used to be a time basically where our families, those that we worked with, those that we went to church with, those that we lived around, regardless of religion, regardless of culture, regardless of race, they became a part of our family. Am I correct? That was one of the beauties basically of King, that regardless of the walk, the thought, or the perception of a person, he was able to unify. Whether it was Jewish beliefs, Muslim, Christian, whether it was black, white, Latino, Asian, whether it was rich or poor, he was able to speak in a unified voice, a voice that each of us basically speak. It's about, I want better for me. I want better for my family. I want better for my community. I want better for my nation and for our world. Is that the same unified voice that we're willing to speak in today? Yes. Or are we speaking disunity? Is it just about a greater whole, or is it about a stronger just individual? Have we lost, or have we ever fully embraced and possessed the passion for if you win, we win? If you hurt, then we hurt. If you die, then we die. And if you thrive, then we all thrive. Are there still hearts so hardened to believe that race is a genuine divide, that one is better than the other, that he is better than she, or that if one wins, then somebody has to lose? Where is the belief that a stronger I helps create a stronger we? As we continue to globalize our country and globalize our society, we are connected. You probably heard the statement that if someone coughs in Mexico, we get a cold in the US. I work basically a lot of times with companies that we call it logistics. All that basically means is the system behind how everything in our lives move and work, from point of origin to the consumer. So most of the things that we purchase is not made here. It's made somewhere else, correct? But there's so many different touch points from so many different individuals, so many different countries, so many different cultures that have to bring what we need to here, and then vice versa. We are connected. It used to be a time, I'm about to date myself again, going into the library is how I did my research paper, okay? I remember telling someone, and some of us will probably remember this, I did my thesis on a Brother word processor. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So there used to be a time where I had to go into the stacks in the library to do research. Now everything is available at a touch of a button via the internet. We are connected. Whether we desire to be or not, it's increasingly so. So how do we stay connected in a positive way? How do we move forward together? Well, following Dr. King's assertion, I recommend that we take an honest assessment and look back. That we look at where we are, what we possessed as good and bad, good values that we might have lost along the way, and how to together build a stronger foundation. We need to start looking at some of those biblical principles and values that they alluded to in his speech about loving one another and not just allowing that in God we trust to remain on the currency without that being a daily choice and a daily practice. We also need to recalibrate our moral compass. Our moral compass has apparently, in a lot of different ways and too often, it now supports wrong instead of right. It tolerates hate instead of celebrating love. And it fails to consider that we reap what we sow. If you desire love, guess what you have to plant and sow? If we desire a safer communities, guess what we have to plant and sow? We have to remain the beacons of light, the beacons of love, the beacons of unity, and not become disenfranchised from the solutions. Love remains our strongest weapon and our strongest force, and genuine love still roots out fear and still is a unifier. King said it this way: darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. So love, basically, if we have to classify and define it, we'll look at it as benevolence, as kindness, as a disposition to do good. Now, sometimes we think that love means that we have to agree on every single thing. That's not the basis of love. That's not even biblical love. He said that those he loves, he corrects. Now, correction doesn't always feel good, correct? Okay, I grew up basically back in a time where, and I went to a Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade. So I grew up in a time where Sister Carthridge and Sister Maria Goretti, who was the principal, had the opportunity with a nice little yardstick to come around and smack a hand if that's what she needed to do. So love doesn't always feel good, but love is always grounded in respect. We can disagree. We can even correct each other and hold each other accountable for the wrongdoing. But at the end, love forgives, and love basically is a unifier, and love is grounded in respect. So, the stones. Everybody have your stone? Everybody chose your own individual stone? Think about this, whatever stone you chose. It might seem basically as something insignificant. But this stone, if dropped in a body of water, what does it do? It creates a ripple effect. Beyond its point of entry and its initial point of contact, it creates effects. The stone is unlabeled for a reason, because each and every decision, we get to decide the impact and the effect. Each choice we make can create a ripple effect of unity or disunity, harmony or disharmony, love or hate. If I basically choose to operate and drop a stone of love toward this young man, that could have a ripple effect for every single person that he encounters. If I choose to drop a stone of hate toward this young lady, that can impact every single person from there that she interacts with. You are a powerful being. You have the ability to change this world. Each and every decision we make creates a ripple effect. Whether I choose to buy a Ford or a Chevy, whether I choose to shop at Jewel or whether I choose to shop at Whole Foods, whether I choose to forgive or to hold on to resentment, whether I choose fear or faith, I am causing a ripple effect. is beyond the point of person that I interact with. It creates a ripple effect for generations and generations and communities and in our world. So in closing, I want to look at something that in a discussion with Lisa and some of her colleagues, it was really about a decree and a personal thought that he planted a few weeks ago. And it was about something I think that we need to ponder upon. That we are powerful. We are lights that dispel darkness. We are the change that the world is waiting for. We will make a commitment to choose to walk in faith, to choose to walk in love, and to serve our brothers and our sisters well. And in the final words of Dr. King, he said it this way: if I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. Not everyone can be famous, but everybody can do greatness because it's determined by service. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. So please, each and every time that you go to make a decision, each and every time you go and interact with someone, think about your ripple effect. Think about not you, but think about the we and the community that we're trying to build. Think about those good old-fashioned values of love, of unity, of faith that have helped build us to this point and will continue to build us forward. So choose wisely, and please leave a legacy in not just your family, not your community, but in this world of greatness, of unity, and of love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful speech. I'm here to introduce Ms. Lauren Meeks. She is an advocate of closing the achievement gap among underdeserved populations. With a background in higher education and youth development, Lauren has supported low-income and first-generation college students through federal TRIO programs, developed and implemented youth mentoring initiatives, and is currently working with Polished Pebbles Girls mentoring program in an effort to help girls 7 to 17 become effective communicators at home, school, and in the future workplace. Lauren holds a Bachelor of Arts from Eastern Illinois University, a Master's of Arts from Governors State University, and is completing a doctoral program at Olivet Nazarene University. So let's give a warm welcome to Ms. Lauren Meeks.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Martin Luther King Day. And happy National Mentoring Month. Yes, it is. Yes. January is National Mentoring Month and a great opportunity to bring awareness to the needs of supporting the futures of our young people. At Polished Pebbles, we take the opportunity to share the importance of loving, responsible adults getting involved in changing a young person's life through mentoring very seriously. So I would like to first thank Lisa Montgomery and IIT for the invitation this morning. And Lisa, thank you for your service in the Bronzeville community and your leadership in inclusion, diversity, and engagement. We thank the IIT community at large. Now, as a new assistant director at Polished Pebbles, I have heard only great things about the IIT students that mentored our youth at Dearborn Homes program. So thank you so much. We thank the IIT community for the strong long-term partnership with Polished Pebbles. And during this National Mentoring Month, we appreciate IIT for allowing Polish Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program to participate in honoring the legacy of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As we reflect on the life and legacy of Dr. King, one may also marvel over the great progress that has been made in our country over the past several decades, while many may still grapple over the work that is still required to make Dr. King's dream a reality. When I consider the sermon that Dr. King delivered on February 28, 1954, 63 years ago, centered on rediscovering lost values, I too think of how far we have come. Despite all of our challenges, this nation has indeed made great progress. I think of the path that the baby boomers paved through the social and civil rights movements of the 1960s and 70s that broke ground for Generation X, who transformed the culture of the American workforce in the 1980s and 90s, who then segued directly to the millennial generation, who overwhelmingly embodies the concepts of social responsibility, diversity, inclusion, and servant leadership of our modern day. And it was the millennial voters who significantly helped elect the nation's first African-American president. But despite all of this progress forward, 4 days away from the inauguration of our next president, our country seems to be caught in controversy, confusion, and a huge divide about how to move forward. If we can move forward, and if our new leadership has the values to shepherd our country into materializing new successes. Therefore, it is only timely that today, during National Mentoring Month, we revisit Dr. King's message on rediscovering lost values. Dr. King spoke to this very concept, reaching back in order to move forward. Our founder, Ms. Kelly Fair, recently shared her journey through servant leadership and building Polish Pebbles in her book, They're All the Same Girl. As I read through her testimonies on mentoring and empowering young ladies to become effective communicators, Ms. Fair reflected on the 10-year journey of Harriet Tubman, the well-known conductor of the Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman once stated to Frederick Douglass that of all the 300 slaves she led to freedom, she never once lost a passenger. Harriet Tubman represented the essence of mentoring. 19 trips back and forth from south to north, and not a single soul lost. Perhaps for us to find our way through the challenges that face us today, as it seems as if we are losing the souls of far too many of our young people, we must discover what we have left behind. In the Polish Pebbles community, which includes our staff partnering schools, 500 plus volunteers, interns, families, and of course our girls, we know that we need to follow Harriet Tubman's lead and Dr. King's lead and implement a very simple solution. In Polish Pebbles, we mentor. In the spirit of rediscovering lost values, we must understand that we have indeed left many of our girls behind. There is much attention given to the plight of African American males. There is no doubt there is a great need to support our males. However, our girls have been left behind. And if you look at the research, in many of our schools, African American girls are more likely to be suspended and expelled more than their male counterpart. We have left behind the girls who witnessed the same violence and experienced the same trauma as her male counterpart. But in Polish Pebbles, we know for every value we have lost, we restore it through mentoring. So please join the Polish Pebbles movement in restoring our precious values. For our girls who participate in the Polish Pebbles Girls Mentoring Program, we teach young ladies between the ages of 7 to 17 to become better communicators at home, school, and in the future workplace. We strive to teach girls to find their inner voice and the value of healthy friendships and healthy relationships. We teach young ladies to become active members of their communities, and we expose our Pebbles to career opportunities so that they too can one day plant the seed in someone else. Whenever I interact with our Pebbles, as we affectionately refer to our girls, I try to remain mindful of the experience this young lady will have with me, because mentoring a young person is such a treasure and an opportunity for me, because I know long after I leave the day's work behind, each young lady will take a piece of their interaction with me along on their journey. I hope and pray that each of those interactions are positive and powerful, empowering and impactful. Just last week, I spoke to a third grader who is actively involved in our school-based program. And I asked her, how was her day? And with tears in her eyes, she said, it won't be good when I get home. So naturally, I asked why. She explained that she was worried about her mother's reaction to her report card. See, this young lady had received all A's and B's, but earned a D in social science. As a mentor, it broke my heart to see her so afraid to face mom. But I was also proud of her concern of her own success. And I could not help but to tell her about the 3 African American women who directly influenced the execution of several NASA space missions, including the landing of the first man on the moon. Of course, I'm referring to Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Katherine Johnson, the Black women whose untold stories are now featured in the #1 film, Hidden Figures. Here in front of me is a third grader who has earned A's and B's in math and science. She really needs to hear their story. This was a mentoring and teaching tool, and the perfect opportunity to remind a little girl of who she can be. Following Dr. King's lead and rediscovering the lost values of stories of these 3 leading African American women who led in STEM and helped propel our country forward in space at a time when no one valued women, no one valued Black women for much more than childcare and domestic work, let alone put men in space. This is mentoring. Mentoring is a bridge to closing the achievement gap, overcoming poverty. Mentoring exposes new possibilities. And mentoring, yes, mentoring can dry up a child's tears. And mentoring for many youth shows them just what love can look like. Love, unfortunately, a lost value for too many of our youth. And for 7 years, mentoring youth is what we're all about at Polish Pebbles. Our founder, Kelly Fair, started Polish Pebbles 7 years ago with only 2 girls. We have served over 1,500 girls since 2009. And this year alone, Polish Pebbles is currently mentoring over 400 girls, ages 7 to 17, in 20 schools in the city of Chicago, in Texas, Indiana, as well as a college edition at Duke University. Yes, we mentor college students because mentoring never stops. Our free Second Saturday program serves girls from all over the city of Chicago, right here in Bronzeville in the Oakwood Shores community. We are proud to provide a safe and nurturing space for girls to be empowered and mentored by women in their community. We're also thankful for the men who support Polish Pebbles. Every February during Men's Month, they serve on men's panels and help support young ladies build positive rapport with males in their community. When it seems that seeing positive daily male role models for many of our girls has become a lost value. So gentlemen, if you're interested in volunteering, please see me. Please join us on this path of rediscovering lost values through mentoring as we continue to build our mentoring services here in Chicago and nationally. Be a Polish Pebbles ambassador, be a Polish Pebbles volunteer, and yes, be a Polish Pebbles donor. If not with Polish Pebbles, please mentor somewhere. As our country embarks on a transition of power, many are uncertain of the future of our nation. This is the time to invest in our youth. We have the power to dissolve the division that is among us in this nation. Let us fight through this time of great conflict and build bridges through mentorship. Remain mindful of the great conductor, Harriet Tubman. Let's continue this journey to freedom. Let us rediscover our lost values through the power of mentoring and leave no soul behind. Thank you.
So on behalf of the Office of Student Access, Success, and Diversity, we thank you for coming out today to join in our celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would like to thank our guests, Illinois Tech student volunteers, and Illinois Tech staff for graciously supporting our work today. And in closing, I would like to bid farewell to you with an old Irish blessing. May the road rise up to meet you, may the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, the rains fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you for coming out today, and we'll see you next year.